Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling something huge, really, for millions of people here in the UK. We're talking about your nest pension.
Mhm.
Chances are, if you're working, you're probably in this, maybe without even, actively picking it, auto-enrollment and all that.
Exactly.
And getting your head around it is just so key for, well, your financial future.
Absolutely. And we've been looking at some really good info,
Mhm.
specifically a detailed guide from Plouta, which really tries to sort of demystify Nest.
Right.
Our aim here is just to cut through the noise, give you that clear, impartial knowledge. So by the end of this, you should feel, hopefully, a lot clearer on the basics.
Like what sort of things?
Like, how money actually lands in your pot,
Hmm.
the fees, because they're a bit different with Nest, how it's invested, what you can do to manage it, and yeah, crucially, what your options look like when you get nearer retirement. It's all about empowering you, really.
That's the plan. Dive in, pull out the key bits, make it easy to understand so you feel properly informed about your nest pension.
Okay, let's jump in. What actually is Nest, fundamentally?
Okay, so NEST, it stands for the National Employment Savings Trust. Basically, it was set up by the UK government.
Right.
The main idea was to support automatic enrollment, make sure it worked for everyone,
Right.
especially, smaller companies who might have struggled otherwise. It kicked off back in 2012.
Okay, government set it up, but they don't run it day to day, do they?
No, that's right. It's
Yeah.
actually run as a trust. There's an independent trustee, the Nest Corporation, and importantly, it's not for profit.
Not for profit, okay.
Yeah, so the focus is meant to be squarely on the members, the millions of UK employees who get put into it by their employers.
So you could easily be in this scheme without making an active choice, which leads to the big question. How does the money actually, build up in your pot?
Right, so NEST is what they call a defined contribution scheme.
Which just means your final retirement income isn't some guaranteed figure. It really depends on how much goes in from you and your employer and how well those investments do over time. And the money comes from, well, three places. People sometimes call it the power of three.
The power of, okay, tell us about that.
First off, there's your contribution. A slice of your salary gets taken automatically. The rules say the minimum you have to put in right now is 5% of your qualifying earnings.
And your employer, they have to chip in too. That's the law, right?
Absolutely. That's the second source, and it's a massive part of auto-enrollment working. Your employer must contribute. Currently, the minimum for them is 3% of your qualifying earnings.
Okay, 5% from you, 3% from the boss. What's number three?
Number three is tax relief. This often feels like a bit of a bonus.
Yeah, free money, almost.
Kind of. Basically, because pension contributions often come from your pre-tax pay, or get topped up if they come from net pay, the government adds money too. So for a basic rate taxpayer, if you put in £4, the taxman adds another £1. So £5 goes into your pot, but it only costs you £4 from your pocket. It's a real boost.
That tax relief is, yeah, it's powerful stuff. Really shows why just staying enrolled is so valuable. You get the employer cash and the government top up. So add all that up, you employer. Tax relief, what's the minimum total going in?
Put it all together, and the minimum total contribution is 8% of your qualifying earnings.
And just quickly, what are qualifying earnings?
Ah, yeah, good point. It's a specific band of earnings. For the 2025-26 tax year, it's anything you earn between £6,240 and £50,207. The percentages apply to earnings within that band.
Got it. Okay, so that's the money going in. Now, fees. Always a bit tricky, fees. And Nest structure is, well, a bit unusual, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's not just one simple percentage. Nest has this two-part fee system you need to know about.
Two parts. How does that work then?
Okay, first, there's what they call a contribution charge. It's 1.8%, and it's taken from every single new contribution.
Every time money goes in.
Every time. So say £100 lands in your account that month from you, your employer, tax relief combined. £1.80 of that is taken straight away as the fee.
Right, so only £98.20 actually gets invested.
Exactly. It's taken off the top before investment. That's part one.
Okay, what's part two?
Part two is the annual management charge, the AMC. This is more standard. Most pensions have this. It's a percentage taken based on the total value of your pot each year. For Nest, that's currently 0.3%.
Okay, 0.3% per year on the whole pot. That sounds really low, actually. Some AMCs are way higher.
It is very low, yes. The 0.2% is definitely competitive.
But how does that combination work out overall? That 1.8% on contributions sounds like it could add up, especially early on.
That's the key point, really. That 1.8% does hit every payment going in, which makes it feel less cost-effective maybe in the short term, or if you were making really big contributions compared to your pot size, less of your new money works for you immediately.
Right. But over the long haul, say decades, as your pot hopefully grows much bigger, that tiny 0.3% AMC starts being charged on a much larger amount. So it becomes the more significant factor in the overall cost. Ness actually says that for most people saving long term, the combined effect averages out to be roughly like paying a single AMC of about 0.5%.
Ah, okay, so it balances out over time. The 1.8% is felt more upfront, the 0.3% more later on as the pot grows.
Precisely. And another thing on fees, they don't charge you for transferring other pensions in or for transferring out if you decide to move your pot later.
No transfer fees, that's good to know. Okay, so the money's in, fees are taken. Where does it actually get invested? What choices do you have?
Right. When you're auto-enrolled, the default option is where your money goes unless you actively change it. And for most people in Nest, that's where it stays.
And what is that default?
It's called the Nest Retirement Date Funds. Think of it as a lifestyle fund. The main feature is that it automatically changes how your money is invested as you get closer to retirement.
Automatically changes how?
Well, when you're young, maybe decades away from needing the money, it's in what they call the growth phase.
Okay.
So more invested in things like company shares, equities, which have higher potential for growth over the long term, but also more ups and downs, more risk.
Makes sense.
Then as you get maybe, say, 10 years or so away from your chosen retirement year, it starts to automatically de-risk.
De-risk.
Yeah, it gradually shifts your money into safer, more stable assets, things like bonds, maybe some cash. The idea is to protect the value you've built up from any big stock market falls just before you plan to access it.
So it adjusts the risk for you over time.
Exactly. And each fund has a year in its name, like Nest 2040 Fund, Nest 2050 Fund. It's based on when they expect you to retire. Your default date is usually set to your state pension age, but you can log in and change that target date yourself.
So it's kind of doing the investment thinking for you, which is great for people who don't want to get bogged down in it. But what if you do want something different? Maybe the default doesn't fit your values or risk level. Yeah, good question. You absolutely can switch. Nest offers a small range of other funds you can choose instead, and there's no charge for switching between them.
What kind of alternatives are there?
There's the Nest Ethical Fund. That one focuses on ESG, environmental, social governance factors. So it avoids tobacco, weapons, major polluters, that kind of thing.
Okay, ethical option. What else?
There's a Nest Sharia compliant fund for those who need investments aligned with Islamic law. Then for risk, there's a Nest higher risk fund, mostly shares, aiming for more growth, but you need to be comfortable with bigger swings in value.
Right.
And the opposite, a Nest lower growth fund, more cautious, fewer shares, aiming for steadier but likely lower returns. And finally, there's a Nest pre-retirement fund, which is very low risk, designed for people right near retirement.
So some clear choices there. Ethical, religious, different risk levels. Seems sensible. Now, how do you actually manage all this? Check your balance, make those switches?
The main way is through your online account. Once you're enrolled, you get login details, and that's really your control center.
What can you do in there?
Pretty much everything you need. You can check your balance anytime, obviously, see exactly what's been paid in by you and your employer, plus the tax relief. You can switch between those investment funds we just talked about. You can change your retirement date, which is important as it affects that default fund's de-risking timing. You can also make extra contributions if you want to save more.
Oh, you can top it up yourself.
Yes, the minimum is just £10. You can do a one-off payment with a debit card, set up a regular direct debit, or even ask your employer if they can facilitate taking extra contributions from your pay.
Useful. Anything else?
Yeah, you can nominate a beneficiary. That's who gets the pot if you die before taking it. And they have a tool that can help you find old pensions you might have lost track of from previous jobs.
Oh, finding old pensions. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And can you bring those old ones into Nest? Consolidate them?
Yes, you can. If you have other defined contribution pots scattered around, you can transfer them into your Nest account online. It can make things much simpler to manage.
And the 1.8% charge doesn't apply to those transfers in, you said?
Correct. No contribution charge on transfers coming in.
Yeah.
But, big caveat here, always check two things before transferring. First, does your old provider charge an exit fee? Some do.
Okay.
And second, more importantly, are you giving up any valuable guarantees or benefits attached to that old pension? Things like guaranteed annuity rates are rare now, but incredibly valuable if you have one. So check the small print carefully before moving anything.
Really good advice. Check before you consolidate. Okay, let's try and pull this together. Looking at Nest overall, what are the main plus points and what are the potential drawbacks?
Yeah, it's definitely got both. It's a balanced picture. Let's start with the good stuff, the pros.
What are the big advantages?
Well, the fact it's government-backed gives a sense of security for many. That 0.3% AMC, the annual charge, is genuinely very low, very competitive. Auto-enrollment itself makes saving incredibly easy, almost passive, for employees. It's free for employers to use, which was vital for getting it widely adopted, especially by small firms. The fund choices, while limited, are clear and cover key areas like ethical and Sharia.
Yeah.
Your pot is totally portable, it follows you if you change jobs, and being a not-for-profit trust should mean it's run in members' best interests.
Okay, those are definitely strong points, especially for getting people started with saving. What about the other side, the potential downsides or things to be aware of?
The main one people focus on is that 1.8% contribution charge. We've talked about how it bites into every payment going in.
Yeah.
Compared to schemes with zero contribution charge, it just means slightly less gets invested initially.
Right, that initial hit.
Then there's the limited investment choice. If you're somebody who really wants to pick specific funds, sectors, or even individual stocks, Nest just doesn't offer that kind of wide-open SIPP-style flexibility. It's a curated list.
So not for the hands-on investor, perhaps.
Potentially not. Also, some might argue the default funds, being designed for the masses and de-risking over time, might lead to lower long-term returns than a more consistently aggressive strategy available elsewhere. But that's about risk and reward, not necessarily a flaw in Nest itself.
Fair enough.
And finally, just looking at public reviews and things, some people have reported mixed experiences with customer service sometimes, maybe difficulties getting through or resolving specific queries about accessing their pots.
Okay, so it sounds like the classic trade-off. Great for simplicity, accessibility, low ongoing costs for the majority, but perhaps less ideal for those wanting total control, wider choice, or making very large contributions where that 1.8% stings more.
That sums it up pretty well, I think.
Okay, let's fast forward. Years down the line, you've been saving, the pot's grown. When can you actually get your money out, and how?
Okay, retirement options. Normally, the earliest you can touch your Nest pot is age 55. Big note here, though.
Yeah.
This is set to rise to age 57 from 2028.
Ah, okay. 57 from 2028. Good to know.
Yeah, but you don't have to take it then. You can leave it invested for as long as you like, especially if you're still working. When you are ready, you've got several options.
What are they?
Well, you could potentially take the entire pot as cash in one go.
Right.
Usually the first 25% is tax-free, the other 75% gets added to your income for that year and taxed.
Okay, taxed as income.
Or you could take smaller amounts out, as and when you need them. With these flexible withdrawals, again, typically 25% of each withdrawal is tax-free, the rest is taxed.
Right.
Nest also offers its own income solution called the Guided Retirement Income Fund. It aims to pay you a regular income while keeping the rest invested. Another route is to take your pot and buy an annuity from an insurance company that gives you a guaranteed income for life.
Guaranteed income.
Or, the final main option, is to transfer your whole Nest pot out to a different pension provider, maybe a SIPP, perhaps because they offer different withdrawal features, or you want to combine it with other pensions before taking an income. And as we said, Nest doesn't charge an exit fee for transferring out.
Wow, okay, that's actually quite a few different ways to access the money. Lots to think about there.
It really is. And the tax implications are different for each one, which makes it complex. This is definitely the point where getting proper guidance is crucial. The government's PensionWise service offers free, impartial help, and it's really worth using before you make any big decisions.
Absolutely. Okay, let's just wrap up with a few quick fire points, maybe clear up some common confusion.
Sure. Quick reminders. Nest is not a SIPP. Key difference is that investment choice SIPPs offer loads. Nest offers its curated selection.
Right. Is the money safe?
Yes. Nest is a trust. It's regulated. Your money is held separately. Investments carry risk, of course, but there's also FSCS protection up to £85,000 if the underlying fund manager were to fail, which is reassuring.
And it's your money, even if you leave that job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Belongs to you from day one. If you change jobs, the pot stays yours. You can leave it in Nest. Maybe your new employer uses Nest too, or you can transfer it out. No exit fees from Nest, remember.
Can self-employed people join?
Yes, they can. Self-employed people can set up their own Nest account and contribute.
Okay, so the really big question, overall, is Nest a good pension scheme?
It's always a nuanced answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
For what it was designed for, easy, accessible auto-enrollment, especially getting employers involved, with a low ongoing charge, yes, it's very good. It's built a foundation for millions.
Mm-hmm.
The employer contributions and tax relief are the massive wins for members. It's a solid start. But if you're maybe a very experienced investor wanting full control or making huge contributions where that 1.8% fee really matters, then yeah, maybe a SIPP or another scheme could be better for you. But that bedrock workplace pension, it does its job really well. So just to summarize, I guess, Nest really has transformed saving for retirement in the UK. Millions are saving now who weren't before, thanks to auto-enrollment. Its strengths are that simplicity, the low AMC, the default fund doing the work for you.
And for you, the listener, it's definitely a valuable benefit. Don't just dismiss it. But understanding those details, the 1.8% charge, the investment options, helps you figure out how it fits into your bigger picture. Is it your main pot or starting block on that journey to financial independence? Let's leave you with a final thought to mull over. Given that unique nest fee structure, the 1.8% hit on money going in, but the super low 0.3% on the pot value growing, how might the timing and the size of any extra voluntary contributions you make, or even thinking about transferring a large pot from elsewhere, actually change the total amount you end up with over, say, 30 or 40 years, compared to a scheme with maybe no contribution charge but a slightly higher AMC, like 0.5% or 0.6%, something to ponder about how those fees compound over the very long term.
Yeah, it's interesting, and our discussion today drew heavily on that detailed guide from Plouta. Having access to impartial knowledge like that is just so important for making informed decisions about your money and your future.
Absolutely. We really hope this deep dive has made your Nest pension feel a bit less mysterious and more like something you understand and can engage with.
And, for anyone listening who wants more of this kind of clear, unbiased financial info or wants to connect with others on the same journey of figuring things out, the Plouta community is a really great place for that. You can find details on joining them online.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back again soon, unpacking something new just for you.